Chipotle is going to call their chip making robot Chippy. Sounds pretty original. Don't they call the elf on the shelf Chippy? Maybe I'm mixing that up. This is a broader concern, though. You don't really see people talking about it. We are in this like mental slumber when it comes to the economy and what's going on right now. And I hate looking at doom and gloom situations because I'm trying to like grow companies and just make money and have success. But then when you look at what's going on, it's like, man, this doesn't look good. And I'll tell you why. As someone who grew up without much money, father working in a steel factory, blah, blah, blah. If you listen to my channel, you know that I believe that even a crappy job is better than no job. There's no worse feeling on the planet than needing money and not being able to find a job anywhere. And my father experienced that through his life. And you also saw it around the crash of 2008 and 2009, where everyone's backs were against the wall, but you couldn't find a job, layoffs, hours cut. People wanted to work. They needed to work, but there were no jobs. Excuse me. Which brings me to the issue today. We have a labor shortage to the point where Walmart's paying $100,000 for truck drivers. And it's a candidate-driven market right now where you can go find a job anywhere for great pay. But what happens when the economy goes the other way? But by then, the companies are so pissed off that they can't get workers. And there's a lot of people still sitting at home on the sidelines right now. They start replacing their jobs with robots. Just like they're going to try to replace the truck drivers with, autonomous trucks at some point. Yeah, sure, those days were coming, but we're just speeding it up. And when the economy hits the brick wall, we're going to need those jobs to keep people employed, to keep this world moving. And I get it. People don't want to work, for 13, 15, 17 bucks an hour at these places. But when push comes to shove, and you got to pay your rent, and you got to feed yourself or your family, these jobs put food on the table, whether it's something you want to do or not. And to me, that's like the greatest measure of where we're at as an economy is, are jobs available? When I look at my old neighborhood, the biggest complaint was lack of jobs when I was young, like less than 10. The dream was get on the line at Ford, try to get a FedEx or UPS job, try to get a post office job. The post office can't even find people right now. No one wants to do the post office job anymore, which is bonkers to me. We've gotten to a point where those are decent jobs. We look down on them. It's like we want to make $80,000 a year to sit in a Starbucks and play on social media. That's a good job. Anything that requires work, any kind of hard work, we don't want to do those anymore, especially if it's an inconvenience, such as a job like sales, for example. We can complain about the Amazon jobs, but when I talked to my dad about that, he's like, if I was 18 years old right now, where he came from, where he didn't graduate high school, his family sucked, they're broke. He's like, if I was 18 years old right now with my family, and I could make 18, 20 bucks an hour on Amazon with benefits, and if I bust my butt, maybe I can become a supervisor one day. My dad's like, holy crap, would I have done that in a minute? I would have done that in a blink of an eye over spending 30 years in a steel factory making no money an hour. We have lost that sense of, wanting to work hard, trying to build ourselves up, and just make something of ourselves through hard work and ambition. But if we don't have those jobs to start, we're going to be screwed. The economy's in a weird place right now where there's a lot of money sloshing around the system. We pumped 6, 7, 8, 9, $10 trillion in. It's a lot of money out there. Once that dries up, we got to go back to work. What happens when you want to go back to work and the jobs aren't there? So, I'm going to do another episode here in a minute about it because I was talking about 70s inflation on a prior episode, and everyone's like living so good right now. The people that got money, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that the stock market might crash, that the real estate market might crash because of interest rates, that all this stuff might crash. They're too busy living the good life to sit back and say, oh, maybe we're in a bubble. If you look at the 70s inflation, this is an opinion. Go look it up. If you look at how many years it took them of raising rates up to 10, 11, 12, 13% on like even just look at mortgages 13%, and another 6 or 7 years to bring the rates back down. 15 years is a long goddamn time if you think about that. So I did an episode on that, and no one really cared. Well, I hear two guys in suits behind me today talking about the same thing, going on and on and on about 70s interest rates. What happened? They're probably my age, maybe late 30s, early 40s dudes in suits. Sounded like they knew what they're talking about. The place I was at, you would assume these people were of some kind of wealth and knew what they were talking about. Doesn't mean they're right. But I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about the same thing I'm talking about. Because if you just read any book about the economy in the 70s and 80s, it's like you understood what happened. And how do we not look at that now and say, well, wait a minute. The 70s, we had some other issues going on, but we didn't pump in like $8 to $10 trillion of liquidity into the market. So if you think inflation's bad now, where are we going? They know that we're not going to get away with these 25 basis point jumps. Anyways, I'm not going to jump into that. I'm going to do another episode. You want to hear my thoughts on the economy and where we're going with interest rates and bubbles? Next episode, tune in. I'm going back to when we do hit that wall and we started replacing all these jobs with robots and self-checkout lines, and we start automating everything because people don't want to work. Then you're going to be sitting at home and you're going to have to rely on whatever the government decides to give you, if they give you anything. I have a whole bunch of family that grew up that way. They're still that way. Some of them passed away. They were willing to just settle for the absolute minimum of what the government would give them. And that's it. If you want to live that life, that's great, but what happens when the government cuts you off? Then you need to go get a job. You got your family to take care of. Well, what about retirement? Dude, you can't even get a job because you've been replaced by a damn robot. So, I don't want to see this. I'm in the restaurant industry. I don't want to go this route. I want to have jobs. I want to have opportunities. I want people to come in, bust their butt, learn how the restaurant works, and say, I want to help you open the next restaurant, and the next restaurant, and the next one, and then can I be a zone manager, a district manager? Can I open up my own restaurant? You get your foot in the door somewhere. You try to learn. You try to master the craft, and you try to grow. Can't do that if a robot takes your damn job. So I don't see this as a good thing. Although I eat out all the time. I love to cook, but I like to eat out just as much. Eating out in the last 18 months has been terrible. So much of the food has been undercooked, overcooked, underseasoned, overseasoned, greasy, sloppy, just not made right. The Panera Bread down here is trying to run like probably a $2.5 million store with like 3 workers sometimes. It's not been an enjoyable experience eating out. And I get it. You have no choice. It's either keep dealing with the severe shortage of staff or you start doing robots. Problem is, once I do robots, you don't go back. And I don't want to go down this road just yet. As long as there are jobs available. Here's the thing, all right? I go back to my old neighborhood. If you look anywhere on the block, anywhere in that whole neighborhood, all the way down to like Southwest Detroit. If there is jobs available, I never wanted to hear anybody, not even in my own family, complain about being broke. When there's no jobs, different situation. If you're able to work and there's jobs available, I don't care that you don't want to do that job. You know how many jobs? I had 3 jobs at once as a teenager. I didn't love any of them, but it's what I had to do to pay for my car, to get some money, and try to get the hell out of that place. Just because you don't want to do the job doesn't mean you sit at home and not work. So as long as there's jobs that people can do, no one should be broke right now. Yeah, guess what? You might have to work 2 jobs. You might have to work 32 hours at McDonald's and pick up another 15 hours at Costco. That's life, man. I watched my parents do it. I did it. These are the things you have to do. There is no cap on providing for yourself. If you got to work 70 hours a week to take care of your family and put food in your mouth, that's what you got to do. There's so many jobs right now, nobody should be broke. They're pushing back school loans again right now. Why? There's so many jobs out there. There's so many jobs. And a lot of jobs are paying $100,000 to drive trucks. Go drive a big rig and get your school loans paid off. But, I did that on LinkedIn once a few years ago. And someone said, oh, that's a meaningless job. And this person was complaining about their school loans. But I'm like, you're sitting at home right now doing nothing, contributing nothing to society, complaining about your school loans, and you're sitting in your parents' house. How is driving a truck meaningless? I'll tell you what. When those trucks stop rolling and you can't get your toilet paper anymore and you're outside wiping your butt with grass clippings, we'll see how meaningless that job is. You know how much of our food, our paper towels, our products come from just either outside this country or they got to get transported across the country through rail, through trains, all intermodal? That is not a meaningless job. That is the very thing that allows us to live the life we live, where I can go in to a grocery store and pick from all these different foods. But this person was arguing with me that it's a meaningless job and they'd rather sit at home and not work because there's no jobs that are meaningful. Well, we're going to be screwed. We're going to have robots doing our jobs. And then we're going to be sitting at home and settling for what someone... Think about that. This is a big thing to me. I never wanted to settle for what someone else was willing to give me. I want more than that. And I'm willing to do anything to get it. Education, work hard, sacrifice, whatever I have to do. I'm not going to sit there and just live based on how someone else is going to dictate to me at what level I should live. That's what the government's going to do to you when there's no jobs. They'll give you just enough to get by and nothing more. Who wants to live that way? I don't. Anyways, let's hope that we can get people back to work before we accelerate robots and AI taking over. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. I'll catch you on the next one.